Hello, welcome, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our listeners and viewers all across the world. Over the past 24, 30 hours, we've had pretty exciting political news coming out of the US. President Joe Biden has decided not to continue with his presidential campaign, and he basically stepped down from the race. Initially, he just stepped down from the race, and then he endorsed Kamala Harris, who is his vice presidential candidate vice presidential candidate for the presidential run to run against Donald Trump. We just finished the Republican National Convention as well. Last week we had the speech from Trump on Thursday. We have his vice presidential pick in J.D. Vance as well, a new face on the national politicals, but a hardcore conservative. And there was an assassination attempt on Trump last Saturday. We didn't cover that, but there has been so much news in the past week. So we'll touch upon each one of those points. But first, we'll come up to Biden stepping down and Kamala Harris being the presumptive nominee. Of course, it will be decided at the Republican convention on 19th of August. That is where she'll be crowned the official nominee, official candidate for the Democratic Party. But with me, I have Arun, my fellow podcaster. Anshul is busy. Welcome. Good evening, Arun. How are you doing?
Good, Soren, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. So let's jump right into it. What are your thoughts about Biden, ceding the race and stepping back from the presidential candidate? What do you think about it?
Yeah, first of all, does Biden know that? I mean, that somebody else could have written that letter for him, just like he used to get written letters and cards to read any public gathering and so forth. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, we talked about this in podcasts that when the debate happened, and right after the debate, the liberal media went right after looking for a substitute candidate in place of Biden. For them, it was a big revelation that Biden was cognitively not being able to perform, but it was no secret. I mean, he has been in brain fog for a long time, for 3.5 years in presidentship. I think on that debate at CNN, they thought that Trump will explode. And the January 6th moment came in the debate, and that did not happen. On the contrary, Biden just had one of the worst moments. The doctor that prescribed him the juice for the State of the Union probably overdid it, so that put him to sleep in the debate, because it did not work this time, but it worked very well for the State of the Union. Not surprised that Biden was forced out debate. I just don't think this is over. Kamala Harris nomination, I don't think it's a sure shot. There might be a bait and switch before the convention. They probably will test the waters and run the polls and see which candidate is close to Trump. Is it Kamala? If it's Newsom, and is it your governor in Michigan? What's her name? I forget. Yeah, if she's closer to the race, then they will test it and see how the polls go, and based on that, they will make a call. So I don't think this nomination pick is finalized yet.
Oh, that's what you think?
Yeah, this is. I mean, just been 24 hours. This stuff's gonna come out. I mean, Kamala Harris. I mean, let's face it. I mean, what has she done? She's got these, giggles and goofy laughs on every serious topic. So if I'm Democrat, do I really want Kamala Harris to represent our party? I'm not sure about that.
So before we go into Kamala Harris and talk about the merits and demerits of the Democratic tickets, what I would start off by saying is, if I was a registered Democrat, which I'm not, I'm an independent, right? While I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump, but if I was a registered Democrat, I would be pissed as to almost a month after that disastrous debate by Biden, why did it take so much convincing for him to get pushed out? Why did it take him about 25 days to leave the ticket? People knew, of course, people who are his handlers, people who are his advisors, his wife, they knew his abilities, for a long, long time. Why did they allow him to run for a second term when they knew really well that, he is not fit? In my opinion, for over the next 6 months, he looks so frail and weak. he's a great guy. He's a decent guy. There have been enough accomplishments that he's done over 3.5 years. I admire him for that. But from a cognitive, from a mental standpoint and physical standpoint, he doesn't seem fit to do the most stressful job on the planet. And why did the Democratic Party, why did people around him not come out and tell the truth to the public? Why were the Democrats robbed of the primary process? Why were they not allowed to look at other candidates who could have been qualified, who could have been much better over the past year? In fact, they said Biden is going to be the candidate. Everybody fell in line. And now Biden suddenly secedes. And Kamala Harris has been, thrust on the public, on the Democrats in place of Biden, which is not the right democratic process. While I believe, anybody could be a better candidate to Donald Trump, but this is not the right process in which they have done this. They should have been more transparent. They should have been more open with the countrymen, and they should have played this a lot better. Now everybody is coming out and saying, hey, it's a selfless act by Joe Biden. It's, he has been courageous, patriotic, and all that. But it took so long and convincing by so many people. And when he saw that the money was going to stop, when the numbers are not there, he's slipping in each and every poll in every swing state. That is when he decided to step down. So that is not a patriotic act or a selfless act. His ego, his pride, his stubbornness kept him on till this long, and his advisors, knowing fully well that his cognitive abilities are not there. We could see that in the debate. The entire country could see that. He's calling Putin as Trump and Trump as Putin. Medicare, he's mixing up for Medicaid. He couldn't frame two sentences correctly. They let it go for so long before they pulled the plug on him. So I'm really mad about that the country, the Democrats needed a better shot at looking at other candidates rather than, Kamala Harris just being thrust upon them.
Yeah, I mean, I have difference of opinion on his accomplishment. 3.5 years. There's few and far in between. I mean, there's a lot more failures that, you talk about the Hamas war, the money being given out to Ukraine war, the border south, disaster, the way we left Afghanistan. So the list is long. I can only speculate as to why Democrats, did not come out and force him out. They thought they could convict Trump, put him into jail. They tried hard to convict him for everything and anything. Last 2, 3 years, 4 years. I mean, they tried to go after him when he was in the office, and they have been after him since he left the office. So they thought between his old cases, January 6th, other stuff, that they're pretty confident they would be able to put him away. And then, Biden gets to ride out the second term. So that's one guess. And after the debates happened and Biden did horribly. By the way, if you hear some noise in the backside, they're not gunshots. I'm at the Myrtle Beach and they're just starting some fireworks. So that's what's going on in the background. So I think they just thought that Trump will flop in the debate and just went the other way. And everything was rehearsed almost. MSNBC, CNN, right after the debate, they were calling Biden to lead. So I think they just changed the game plan, and they probably reached out to all these guys. They're sending in money to, raise the fundraiser. As you know, in U.S. politics, if you're not raising any money, you cannot sustain any race. So I think it was all by design. It was not accidental as to why Biden was being forced out.
I would take a minute to also talk about politicians or public servants who stay for too long. All these guys are 80 plus. You look at Joe Biden, there was Dianne Feinstein of California, she was a senator, and she would hardly attend. She was chair of some important committee, I think Armed Forces or some such committee, and then she would not even attend any of those committee meetings. Chuck Grassley, Mitch McConnell, all these guys, Bernie Sanders, are up there. Or public servants like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? She was sick with pancreatic cancer right in 2020. She could have stepped down from the Supreme Court, but until she died, she continued on the Supreme Court. And then, Trump then appointed Amy Coney Barrett onto the Supreme Court. So they hold on to power too long. Biden, they are so much in love with the power that they have that even when their physical abilities and mental abilities are failing, they hold on to their positions way too long, and they do a disservice rather than any good service to the country. They can't do their jobs. It's when it's time to go. There should be term limits for these important positions, is what I feel. But let's move on from this. So, how do you see after the Republican National Convention last week, after seeing, I don't know if you saw J.D. Vance and, that acceptance speech by Trump? We'll come to that. But what do you think how the race is going to pan out? Arun, how do you think it is going to happen over the next 2 to 3 months?
Yeah, so JD Vance, I did not see his speech. I was traveling last week, so I did not get to see his speech. But to me, that's showing confidence that they just doubled down on that, extreme right-wing ticket 1-2 with Trump and Vance. If they had any doubts, they would have pulled in a more moderate candidate like Haley to come in and try to get the middle of the vote. But they after the debate with Biden, they just felt so confident and Trump's near miss that they felt like they can go and get somebody. And I believe he's in from Ohio, so all that Midwest, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, all that belt, which pretty much is now turned into all the swing states, including Pennsylvania. Vance, whose wife's from India, from south of India, I believe, from Visakhapatnam, whose family, bunch of accomplished and educated folks with I believe her dad and grandfather IT grads. So she comes from a very accomplished family. But coming back to JD, he's got a story, very motivating story himself. His mom and dad were not much to do. I even heard they were alcoholics, and he was raised by his grandparents from the mom's side. So that his dad's last name was actually Bowman, and he took his grandfather's name, Vance. And then, so self-made man, studied hard and went to Yale. That's where he met Usha, his wife. But coming back to the ticket, I think they just doubled down, knowing that they're feeling pretty good about their chances and not try to go for somebody in the middle like Haley. And I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy had a chance with those two egos, could not sitting in one room, but they could have tried to get somebody in the middle. But after the debate and the near miss Trump, they're feeling pretty good, and they just doubled down on the ticket.
Yeah, you're right. I think they were almost cocky, is what I thought. The Republican Party was. That could be seen. They went with J.D. Vance. I thought his speech was. I listened to his speech, and I didn't think it was anything great. He didn't, knock it out of the park. But it served to the red base. It was red meat, to the base. And he did not, his narrative, he did not, on a national stage, I don't think he made it very, very clear, So basically, his speech was kind of okay to me. And there were a bunch of other speakers. I thought that it was like a carnival, it was like there were so many lies. And to cap it all, the icing on the cake was that bloviating, rambling speech by Trump, which was 96 minutes long, and it put me to sleep halfway through it. I could not sit through it, but it was so depressing. He was talking about World War III. He talked about his assassination attempt in great detail, and basically he was putting down everybody. They said it would be a speech about unity. It was anything, but unifying. So that is the thing about, Trump that I don't really like. There is no positivity that he radiates. He doesn't say, good things about anybody. Anything and everything he tries to put down. And it was a typical dark and negative tone in his speech. But they were riding the wave after the assassination attempt. The party united behind Trump, and that could be seen in each one of the speakers: Eric Trump or Don Jr. or Hulk Hogan or J.D. Vance or anybody who spoke, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis. It showed, their confidence showed them that they are leading now. They have a good chance of winning the presidency. And basically, they were almost boastful. They were almost boastful to a large extent. But coming back to how the race is going to turn out, I think Harris is going to be on an attack mode against Trump, and it will put him slightly on the back foot because Harris is going to be attacking more. She's going to get out there more, definitely more than Joe Biden. And she's on abortion, she's going to make a big noise, Project 2025. She's going to rake all these things up. And then it depends who is going to be the vice presidential candidate that she's going to choose. So, what do you think about the potential vice presidential candidate for the Democrats, Arun? What would be a good combination?
Yeah, so I don't know who's going to be that, Soren, but I do think Kamala Harris would land punches on the abortion issue. That's the Republicans' Achilles heel. That they're not going to. But if you look at the polls, even there's a ceiling on Trump. None of the polls sees more than 50%. It's just Biden's rating went so far down that he opened up like a 48, 41. But I have not seen any polls where Trump is more than 51. So still half the country either likes him or hates him. So that has not changed. 1/3 of the Democrat, thought this was the fake assassination. So that at the end of the day, I don't think any Democrat's going to vote for Trump because he almost had a JFK moment. So this is where I think Trump needs to be more humble and more dignified about as to what just happened. But if that happens, he might pull in some vote from the middle. I can guarantee you that could pull in 2-3%. Who knows? But so there's a long list of Democrats coming out. I'm not sure Newsom's going to come in the race or other folks. I have no idea. I just don't think that Kamala Harris stands a chance of beating Trump because somebody needs to fire up the vote because Democrats not going to go care much because they think Trump, is going to win the election. And same thing what happened in India. If you think about the Modi election, that people did not turn up to vote just for the opposite reason that Modi is going to win anyway, so why go vote? So I don't know how much of that, but Democrats going to drive on the abortion issue. Republicans are weak on that, and then we heard this in our election in India that Trump's going to change the constitution and he's going with the dictator, and that's what we heard about Modi. So interestingly, those fears could be used in this election too. Because these days it's such a small global world, right? It's crazy who would have thought that being a dictator, changing constitution used in an election could be used in the US 6 months apart. So to me, those are the 2-3 things that Republicans have got going against them. Democrats have not had a good three and a half year under Joe Biden's economy and inflation, foreign policy, everything is in the tanking. So we'll see how that goes. So I have no idea who they're going to pick as the VP candidate.
So with that, and a reminder to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. Please encourage us and spread the word, spread to your friends, family, your network as much as possible so that we can bring more interesting and exciting subjects to you in our upcoming podcast. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening, good night, good day, wherever you are in the world. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.